Hello everyone, my name is Ashley Kinsler and today I'm going to present to you Do You Want Fries with That? The potato, a cultural staple in American diets. Study after study finds that the potato is the overwhelming favorite vegetable in the United States. It takes many forms, and one way or another, it almost always finds itself on the American dinner table. It is truly a staple of our culture when it comes to food. In this presentation, I'm going to cover the history of the potato and how it found its way into America, the cultural relevance of the potato, how it's prepared, both ways that are good for you and bad for you, the benefits of eating potatoes and some of the downfalls, statistics and data, and I'll talk about the future of the potato in American culture. The history of the potato starts all the way back with the Indians in Peru. They were first cultivated there around 8,000 BC to 5,000 BC, and they weren't just for eating either. The Native Americans there sometimes used raw slices of potatoes on broken bones to promote healing. They treated facial blemishes by washing their face with potato water, and to treat aches and pains, they boiled potatoes and then used the water to rub on the affected areas. The Spanish conquistadors conquered Peru in 1536 and brought the potato back to Europe. The potato reached American soil in 1621 when Bermuda Governor Nathaniel Butler sent 2 large cedar chests of potatoes and other vegetables to Governor Francis Wyatt of Virginia in Jamestown. The first permanent potato patches were established in 1719 by Scotch-Irish immigrants in New Hampshire. Below we have a picture of Governor Francis Wyatt. Idaho, which now produces the most potatoes, didn't start growing them until 1836, when missionaries moved west in an effort to teach the native tribes how to grow crops instead of relying on hunting and gathering methods. In 1872, the russet Burbank potato, the one we most commonly eat now, like potato, like French fries, mashed potatoes, potato chips, these are all this kind of potato. Those were created in Idaho, and the vegetable's popularity exploded after they were. This photo below I found were some of those early missionaries that set up potato farms. The potato became wildly popular after the settlers learned to cultivate the vegetable, but its solidification as part of the American diet came during a very tumultuous and devastating time for the country, the Great Depression. From 1929 to 1939, more than 25% of Americans were out of work, and men were struggling to feed their families. The potato, which grew quickly and was cheap to produce, quickly became a staple of American diets. After bread, it was the most popular food eaten during the Great Depression. Because potatoes were the most affordable and provided the most sustenance, families had to get creative with the ingredients they used because they had to eat it so often. Popular recipes included the staples we still see today, like mashed potatoes, baked potatoes, and potato pancakes. Then they also had to get, a little more creative, and they had diced potatoes with hot dogs and onions, which I've still eaten as a recent thing. They also took pasta and put in boiled potatoes with peas and onions. They made potato chocolate cake, potato egg drop soup, and even potato candy. The picture at the right is potato pancakes, which my grandmother actually taught me to make. You just take mashed potatoes, press them down after they've been refrigerated. Usually you use leftover mashed potatoes, and then you just fry them in some kind of oil. And I remember my grandmother actually telling me that her parents had learned how to make these in the Depression. More than 70 years after the Great Depression, the potato is still a staple of the American diet. A baked potato with our steaks, mashed potatoes with our pot roasts, a bag of chips with our sandwiches, and hash browns with our breakfast. We still love potatoes in a number of different preparations. To give you some figures, just to show how popular potatoes still are, considering the following from the USDA. They're the 4th most important food crop in the world and the leading vegetable crop in the United States. In 2013, 1.13 million acres of potatoes were harvested. And each year, the average American eats an average of 112 pounds of potatoes, more than any other food aside from cheese and milk. If we take a look at this graph from the USDA, we can see among the vegetables how much more potatoes we eat than any other vegetable, any other ones that would probably be more healthy for us. The USDA also splits these up to show us how many fresh ones we eat in comparison to how many frozen ones we eat. And that is just way too equal. The frozen is typically your French fries, which take up most of it. We love our potatoes so much in the United States that in 1995 we grew them in outer space. NASA, in conjunction with the University of Wisconsin, created the technology in order to feed astronauts on long space voyages. Even the astronauts can't go without our beloved potato. And this picture that you see, this is how the potatoes started, those little bitty things that that man is holding, and in space they grow to be the potatoes that are behind him. When prepared naturally, as they were in the Great Depression, potatoes actually have a wealth of nutrition. In fact, one medium potato will give you 45% of the recommended daily intake for vitamin C, 21% of the recommended daily intake for potassium, 3 grams of fiber, almost no fat to speak of, 100 calories, and it's also rich in iron and magnesium, and it supplies all the vital nutrients you really need except for calcium and vitamins A and D. Today, the preparation of potatoes that Americans most commonly eat is not natural. It's processed, and they often contain exorbitant amounts of fat and sodium. The most popular of these preparations are French fries and potato chips. In this graph, we look at also from the USDA, when we eat at home, the most kind of potatoes that we eat are actually potato chips. They're not even, the mashed potatoes, baked potatoes that we're used to thinking about with home-cooked meals. We actually eat more potato chips. And when we're away from the home, almost 60% of the potatoes we eat are fried, and most of those, probably almost all of those, are French fries. Speaking of French fries, they are the most popular preparation of potatoes, and they're also the most damaging to our health. Their high fat content contributes to weight gain, cardiovascular issues, rise in cholesterol, stroke, and diabetes, and can even injure nerve cells in the brain, according to one study I found from the University of Washington. Their high salt content contributes to high blood pressure, which can lead to heart and kidney disease as well as stroke. And they contain this toxin, which I won't try and pronounce, but it's found in all fried foods, and this chemical has been associated with cancer. And more than half of our potato production goes toward French fries. I think the future of America's favorite vegetable is a pretty solid one. According to the USDA, the amount of potatoes eaten by Americans each year has consistently risen for at least a decade. From 2012 to 2013, for example, an increase of 5% was seen, so our appetite for potatoes is going to continue to grow. And considering how much of this production is devoted to processed potatoes is kind of worrisome. As Americans are continually more stressed and rushed and without the time and turning to quick food, I don't think that this trend will diminish anytime soon. I think the potato will remain a staple of the American diet and of our culture, but it will continue to transform into unhealthier versions of it. Throughout this presentation, we've learned quite a bit about one of the staples of American culture when it comes to food, the potato. We've discussed its history, its cultural relevance, the way it's evolved, its benefits and disadvantages, and what the future looks like for our beloved spud. When faced with the question, do you want fries with that? For Americans, we can conclude that the answer will probably be yes. Thank you very much.